Hey, what's up expats and travelers alike? I'm Josh with Expats Everywhere.
And I'm Kalie.
And in this video today, we're going to talk about the 4 reasons why we swapped our lives in the United States for Singapore. I'm going to give my 2, Kalie's going to give her 2, and then we are going to give you guys some of the things that you should know before you go, some of the hidden things that we didn't realize until we got there.
Let's go.
Number 1.
Okay, so my first reason is when we visited Singapore from Saudi Arabia. We had been living in Saudi and we went on a vacation and we did Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. And Josh kind of chose this vacation. I didn't really know much about Southeast Asia. So when he had talked about those 3 places, I didn't really think much about it. And then we got to Singapore, and even compared to the other 2, I was like, whoa. This place is beautiful. I was just floored at how beautiful it was. It was so amazing, and I guess it wasn't anything like I would picture being in Southeast Asia. So I was like, the first day there, I was like, I want to live here.
That's true.
And that was it.
I think I said the same thing.
Yeah, well, Josh was like, oh, maybe a couple other places. I was like, nope, Singapore. We will be living in Singapore next.
Yeah, for sure. I believe that the first night in the hotel when we were staying there, like for real stayed there, because we passed through there on the way to Indonesia, but when we stayed there that first night, I started looking at jobs. And the jobs that we ended up getting,
they were good.
Were the ones that we found that first night.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? The actual jobs we found that first night are the ones that we ended up taking.
Yeah. So my reason, this is reason number 2, is because we used to live in South Korea. So we lived in South Korea for a while, so we saw a decent amount of East Asia, and we didn't really get a chance to see much of Southeast Asia and some of the other countries around, and even visit Australia, for example, although we could have when we lived in South Korea. We just didn't have time to.
It's still kind of far from there.
Yeah, we didn't make it.
Yeah.
So we decided that it would be great to have another base in Southeast Asia, and places like Bangkok or Kuala Lumpur or Singapore were options. But Singapore.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys are seeing a trend here from our other videos, but we tend to base ourselves in a location, different locations, so that we can travel, because we love to travel.
Yeah, we've been abroad for a bit now, like over 10 years, and Singapore was the first place that we stayed more than 2 years, and actually we stayed there for a total of 4 years.
Yeah, and we'll get to some of those benefits in a little bit, because I've got a really good benefit that I think you should consider before you move there. But let's move on to my reason number 3, which is everyone speaks English there, and signs and everything are in English. So how easy is that? You know, when you go to a new place and just the stress of moving anyway, it's kind of daunting, but then if you get there and you see all these different signs and you're like, your head is swimming because you're like, I don't know this language well enough to even understand what's going on. But then you move to Singapore and you realize that everything's in English, all the signs, and everyone speaks English. You don't even have to go up to someone and say, do you speak English? No, they speak English. I mean, you might get some of the older generation on the more outskirt parts of the island that don't well or don't really try, but everyone speaks English, which makes it really easy.
Yeah, it would actually be funny to walk up to someone in Singapore and ask them if they speak English.
Yeah, don't do that.
because you might even catch like an amazing British accent coming back at you, or someone who's been schooled in the US or at an international school, and they're going to speak like perfect American English. So it's pretty funny. Well, my reason number 4 is because I really wanted to get my international teaching career kick-started, and the money in Singapore is phenomenal. I mean, they pay some of the best wages, certainly in international school teaching in the world. I mean, some of the expat jobs in the corporate world also pay extremely well because of higher cost of living, but I knew that I could make things kind of work out and balance out in terms of our expenses, and we'd be able to save a bunch of money.
And that was actually the job that we found that first night there. So we had been in teaching for a while, but we had both been teaching English. Now that we were getting in an international scene, it was an American international school, so it's run the same way that a school would be in the States. So they needed all different types of teachers, and they were looking for a PE teacher, because we actually saw on the website that they had an opening for English, and we didn't know how many openings there were.
For ESL.
ESL, yes, for ESL. And we didn't know how many openings there were, so we both applied, and then they came back and said there's just one opening. So then we started looking further, and we're like, well, what about PE? Because even though Josh hadn't taught PE, he had a lot of sports experience and teaching soccer and things like that. So that's kind of how we got into the international route.
Yeah, I'd been doing youth coaching for a while, but that's a story for a different day. Let's talk about some of the bonuses on why you might want to move there, and then also some things that we didn't realize would be so awesome about Singapore that now we know.
So I referenced it earlier that everyone speaks English, which is great. So I think one of the best benefits that I found while there is it felt like home. I know that sometimes, like when you move other places, you still feel like a foreigner, or you feel like it's not your home country, and not sure if language is because of that, or the people, or just because things feel so different. The way you go to a grocery store, or the way you would take public transportation, or those things might all feel kind of different, so you never feel like you're at home. Well, Singapore, for some reason, because there are so many expats and it's this crazy weird mix of cultures, it feels like home. And I think that is a massive benefit, and that's probably why we stayed so long, because it just felt so comfortable. You didn't feel like a foreigner there.
We'd go back too.
Yeah.
I think that language actually does play a huge role. So there gets to be a point where somebody is sacrificing in a relationship or friendship when you're using someone else's native language and you're having to use your second language. There's just, I don't want to say like friction or tension, but there's a bit of a sacrifice there. But with Singaporeans whose native language is English, there's no sacrifice there. Now, some Singaporeans will grow up in houses where they're going to be speaking Mandarin, or they're going to speak Tamil.
But they still will speak English. So, and they learn it in school, and it's just widely spoken. So there is a lot of Mandarin as well, but English is just so common that everyone learns it and speaks it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, another benefit to being in Singapore that we didn't realize is that it's really easy to get to Changi Airport from everywhere, and Changi Airport is the #1 airport in the world. That's not my opinion. That is experts' opinion.
It's amazing. You just, people go there and just spend a day there. Or you can go there.
I think that's a bit silly.
Well, you could go there really early, like before your flight, and experience things. Because there's a movie theater, and they've got places to get a massage, and they've got a slide. I mean, it's just these crazy things that they have there. And that's all inside the actual airport. And it's actually connected to a mall, which is beautiful, and it's amazing. It's really big, and there's this huge waterfall right in the middle. So you really could go there and just hang out for a bit.
One of the other hidden benefits is we had no idea just how safe it was in Singapore. I mean, we had looked up the safety ratings and everything, but Singapore is like ridiculously safe.
It's really safe. So that's really nice. I mean, you can be anywhere at any time and not feel threatened or anything. So that is a huge benefit.
One thing that I think that you guys should know before you go is that yes, Singapore is very expensive, and it's always high on those lists of how expensive it is, but it doesn't really have to be. It depends on how you want to live your life, what kind of things that you're used to. What I mean by that is housing is expensive in Singapore. There are some workarounds. A lot of international companies actually give living stipends to pay, or housing stipends to pay for the housing. So that can kind of be taken care of. And once that's taken care of, a lot of the other costs drop. Transportation is pretty cheap unless you want to own a car. But if you don't want to own a car, then you're good. Like, transportation is cheap.
And it's not necessary to own a car.
It's not necessary. Yeah. Ride shares are relatively cheap. Food can be expensive, but it doesn't have to be. Local food is so tasty, and it's as cheap as you'll find really anywhere in the world, I think. Anywhere that we've traveled that's like not, yeah.
Right, so they have these things called hawkers, which is like almost like street food, but they're permanent street food, and they're government regulated, so they're clean. So that's another good thing. In some of these Southeast Asian countries, you can get some crazy food on the streets, but in Singapore, it's a little different. Everything is very clean. That's also a good perk about the whole country itself, is that it's clean. But you have these hawkers, and the food is really, really good. It's filling, and it's cheap. So like Josh said, you can get that type of food, or you can go and pay $100 for a steak if you want.
That's right. The other thing I want to say is that the fines are real, but we never experienced them.
Yeah, I mean, people talk about them, but yeah, we never really had any problems with that.
Just mind your P's and Q's. Like, it's not a crazy state where they're on CCTV looking at your every move. Although maybe they are, we just don't even know it.
But it doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't feel like it.
So
it's all about feelings.
Well, it cultivates this safe environment, so I like. So it's safe, and it's clean, and it's just very homey feeling.
Yeah, just don't break the law.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. If you guys want to know more about Singapore life, click this playlist here. We've got interviews and resources that we have made about our life in Singapore and other people's lives. And if you guys have seen several of our videos and you haven't hit the subscribe button, please hit the subscribe button, help us grow. Now let's get moving.
Bye.